Stoppage time. MetLife Stadium. Norway 2, Brazil 1. A body rebuilt from surgery. A career on its final minutes. And Neymar Jr. 129 caps, 80 international goals, placing the ball on the penalty spot one last time. He already knew the match was lost. He already knew the World Cup was over, but he stepped up anyway, because everything he has ever done on a football pitch has always mattered, right to the very end. The ball hit the net. The stadium fell silent with the weight of what they had just witnessed. Not a winner, not a savior, a farewell. When the final whistle blew, he did not walk off. He stood alone in the center circle and broke down completely. 6 words to the media, just 6. I tried, now it's over. The knee surgery came first, a procedure serious enough that the football world spent months debating whether Neymar would make it to World Cup 2026 at all. Then came the calf issues, a secondary injury that compressed his preparation window to a fraction of what any player competing at a World Cup needs to be physically ready for the demands of single elimination knockout football. The Brazilian medical team's assessment of his fitness was cautious throughout the tournament. He was used sparingly, off the bench, managed like a player whose body was being protected from the full consequences of what he was being asked to do. But here is what makes Neymar's presence at this tournament something beyond athletics. He came anyway. With the knee, with the calf, with the surgical scars and the recovery timelines and the medical advice that any reasonable person would have used as permission to step away. He came because Brazil needed him to come, or at least he believed they did, and because the possibility of one more World Cup goal, one more moment of individual brilliance on the biggest stage in football was worth every physical risk attached to it. He was right about the goal. He was wrong about the outcome, and the gap between those two things is where the heartbreak lives. The match itself was a story that the football world will be telling for a long time, not because of the drama of its conclusion, but because of the clinical, organized, quietly devastating way in which Norway dismantled a Brazilian squad that arrived at MetLife Stadium as significant favorites and left it in fragments. Norway did not overpower Brazil. They suffocated them. A compact, disciplined defensive structure that compressed the space in which Brazil's attacking players needed to operate, combined with a counter-pressing intensity that disrupted Brazil's rhythm from the opening minutes and never allowed it to re-establish. The Norwegian tactical blueprint was built around one central intelligence, that Brazil, without the fully fit, explosive version of Neymar driving their creative structure from the start, was a team whose attacking identity could be neutralized by a disciplined collective system. They were right. 2 Norwegian goals, both products of precisely executed tactical sequences that exposed Brazil's defensive transition vulnerabilities, put Norway in a position that the Selecao simply could not recover from. When Neymar entered as a substitute, the score was already 2-0. The tactical situation required a miracle. The physical situation required a player who had spent the last 12 months recovering from surgery. The combination of those two realities produced one moment of genuine, authentic brilliance. A penalty won, a penalty converted, and a final scoreline of 2-1 that told the full story of the gap between what Brazil needed and what they had. The penalty itself deserves its own chapter, because in the context of what it meant, what it represented, and what it confirmed about the player who converted it, a consolation penalty in a losing World Cup exit carries a weight that no scoreline can fully communicate. When Neymar stepped up to take that penalty in stoppage time at MetLife Stadium, he was doing something that only one Brazilian man before him had ever done. By scoring, he became just the second Brazilian male player in history, alongside Pelé, to score in 4 separate World Cups, 4 tournaments, 4 different World Cup goals. Across 12 years of international football, across multiple injury recoveries, across the full arc of a career that has survived everything the sport and his own body could throw at it. The name he joins on that list, Pelé, is the only name in Brazilian football that requires no context. He walked to the spot with the same deliberate calm he has always carried in penalty situations, the calm of a player who has spent so long in high-pressure moments that the pressure itself has become familiar territory. The goalkeeper went the right way. The ball went harder and more precisely than the goalkeeper could reach, and Neymar turned back toward his teammates with an expression that was not celebration, it was acknowledgement. A quiet, private recognition that the goal had been scored, that the record was set, and that the match was still lost. Sometimes the greatest moments arrive inside the worst outcomes. And this was one of those times. The full-time whistle at MetLife Stadium did not produce the scenes that World Cup eliminations usually produce. There was grief in the Brazilian camp, as there always is. But what made the final moments of this match different? What made them something that the thousands of people inside that stadium and the millions watching globally will remember long after every other detail of this tournament has faded was what Neymar did and did not do in the seconds after the whistle. He did not run to his teammates. He did not seek comfort from the coaching staff. He stood in the center circle of MetLife Stadium, the same center circle where the match had kicked off, where Brazil's World Cup dream had been alive 90 minutes earlier. And he stood there alone, for long enough that cameras from every angle in the stadium found him and held on him, a single figure in yellow, surrounded by the noise and movement of a match that had just ended, completely still. And then the tears came. Players cry at World Cups. It happens at every tournament, but the specific quality of Neymar's grief in those moments was something different, recognizable to anyone who has ever watched a person come to terms in real time with the end of something that defined them. This was not the grief of losing a match. This was the grief of a 34-year-old man standing on a football pitch for what he already knew was the last time as an international player, understanding that the thing he had given the majority of his life to had just reached its final moment. And the weight of that understanding was visible on his face, his shoulders, his entire body, in a way that required no commentary to communicate. When Neymar spoke to the media after leaving the pitch, he did not deliver a prepared statement. He did not offer tactical analysis of the defeat, or discuss the specifics of the penalty, or reflect at length on what the tournament had meant. He said 6 words, and in those 6 words, I tried, now it's over. He delivered what may be the most honest and most complete retirement announcement in the history of international football. The statistics that accompany those 6 words are the kind that take decades to accumulate and a career without parallel to produce. 129 international appearances for Brazil, 80 international goals, a number that makes him Brazil's all-time leading scorer by a margin that will not be approached for many years. Goals in 4 separate World Cup tournaments, across Brazil 2014, Russia 2018, Qatar 2022, and USA 2026, a Copa America title, an Olympic gold medal, a career that, from its earliest moments, announced itself as something operating at a frequency the football world encounters once in a generation. He tried. That much is beyond question. He tried through the injuries and the surgeries and the recoveries and the setbacks that would have ended the international careers of players who wanted it less. He tried through the criticism, and there was criticism, some of it fair, some of it savage, of a player who was simultaneously one of the most gifted and most scrutinized athletes of his era. He tried all the way to a stoppage time penalty at MetLife Stadium in a World Cup his body had no business being in, against opponents his team could not overcome. And then it was over. Here is the verdict on Neymar Jr., delivered with the honesty his career demands and the respect his numbers have earned. He was not Pelé. No one has been Pelé, but he was the closest thing Brazil produced in 50 years, a player of such natural, instinctive technical brilliance that even his most severe critics could not watch him at his best without acknowledging they were seeing something the game rarely produces: his dribbling, his vision, his ability to manufacture space where none existed. These were not learned skills, they were gifts, and he gave them to Brazilian football for 17 years without reservation. The World Cup trophy never came. That absence will follow his legacy forever, but the 80 goals will follow it too. The 4 World Cup goals alongside Pelé will follow it. The career built on surgeries, recoveries, and sheer refusal to stop will follow it. 6 words. I tried, now it's over. 80 goals, 129 appearances, tears on the center circle at MetLife Stadium. The greatest scorer in Brazilian football history walked off that pitch for the last time, and the football world watched him go in silence. What is Neymar Jr.'s true legacy, generational genius, or unfulfilled destiny? Drop your tribute in the comments. Like the video, subscribe for complete World Cup coverage, and we will see you at the next file breakdown.